So my apologies. So continuing from the last problem, had a slight issue with the battery. There's a little bit of a correction that needs to be done over here. So because I forgot to add the other x-intercept that we have in this point. So instead of just having just -4 and 0, we also have 2 as well too, or -2 as well for the x-intercept. So in this case, we would have 3 points on the double prime. So we'd have -4, -2, and 0. So as I mentioned earlier, we looked at the location of the curves, whether they're on the negative or the positive side of the quadrant. So in this case, from infinity to -6 it's positive, but from -6 to, I should say, -2, even though it's not like an official kind of, or no, we can just leave it as that. Yeah, it'd just be also negative because it's in the negative quadrant. And then from 2 to infinity is just positive. And then here in this case, so from -infinity to -4 it'd be negative, and then from -4 to -2 it would be positive actually, because we're in a positive side, or in a positive quadrant. And then from -2 to 0 it would be negative because we're in a negative quadrant right here, because the curve is just like down, passes through the x-axis into the negative, and then from 0 beyond it's going to be positive. So when it comes to slowing down means that f prime of t and f double prime of t must have different signs in order to show that they're slowing down. However, if we were asked if it was going to be acceleration, then both f prime of t and f double prime of t would have had to have the same signs. So in this instance, for example, like if let's try to find the slowing down one. So for example, slowing down in this case would be from so we can say roughly from -6 to -4. I'll just write them down right here. So -6 to -4. And then we'll also say, because they have different signs, because you have positive and negative, so that means that it's slowing down. But if they were both positive, that means that it would have been accelerating up. So yeah, so and then from negatives, and then from -4 to -2, it would have also been slowing down as well too. So -4 to -2 would have also been slowing down in this instance too, because they have two different signs. So there's a negative above here, and then there's a positive right in between -4 and -2. So given that they have two different signs, in this case, it means that it would be slowing down. Or you could just say, yeah, you could just say that. And then like if we're looking at the other signs, so from 0 to 2, which is positive and negative, it would also be decreasing because they have two different signs. So it would actually be free intervals that pertain to slowing down. So we have these three intervals right here, but if we put them together in interval notation, so we can just say -6 to -4, union sign, -4 to -2, union sign, 0 to 2. And they're all slowing down because they have different signs. But in the case of 2 to infinity or -2 to 0, both of these intervals are actually accelerating because -2 to 0, for example, both f prime of t and f double prime of t have the same sign, which is negative, and then from 2 to positive, or from +2 to infinity, both have the same positive sign, which would mean that they're both accelerating instead of slowing down in that instance. So these three intervals would be the final answer, and then these would be the respective graphs for f of t when it comes to f prime of t and f double prime of t.